The group came through.
Yeah, dude, the group came through on this one. Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to this week's episode of Hollow Weekly with our next episode of How Low Can We Go at 57?
57% on
Metacritic.
Right.
Yes.
We're not going with Rotten Tomatoes. It's a different aggregator choice.
We wanted to add some spice to it to be able to...
Right. Well, behind the scenes of How Low Can We Go...
Which, if you don't know How Low Can We Go is, it's where we start at 59% and work our way all the way down 1% at a time to see, well, how far can we go? And last time we made it to...
Looking for good movies, or at least good things in maybe questionable movies, all the way down. We're trying to find good stuff.
Yeah, trying to find the good stuff.
Because the ratings are usually wrong, and a lot of the movies deserve to be better. Although, it gets harder to find the deserving ones as you go.
Yeah, that is the challenge.
But we found a deserving one.
So 57%.
Yes.
We actually did 57% or points, whatever, on Metacritic.
Yes.
Which kind of is like the, you know how like we use Yelp here, but like when we went to like London and Tokyo, they used, what was it like?
Right.
Oh, what's it called?
The name. It's not theirs.
Yeah,
right.
it's
I'll
whatever.
find it while you're talking.
Whatever
right.
the other like
their
that's like Yelp,
Royale with
the,
cheese
for the world.
Right.
TripAdvisor. That's what it was.
Right.
Yeah. To me, TripAdvisor or Metacritic is the TripAdvisor of Rotten Tomatoes.
Right, totally. Right, but here's the more interesting thing is, so the movie we're doing is C.H.U.D. And the weird thing is, if you look this up, it's 57% on Metacritic, but it's what on Rotten Tomatoes? It's not, it's 20s, right?
32.
32. So there's a pretty wide divergence. I don't think that I thought that through when I was like, let's use a bunch of aggregator sites for this, because I assumed they would sort of line up. I figured they'd be a few percentage points off, but that's a pretty big, like 30% to,
but
to
it brings
50s, high 50s is a.
But it brings up an interesting dilemma, or not dilemma, but just I don't know, set of data that is interesting to look at. Because what if when we get to like the 30s, like, you know, that Rotten Tomatoes pulls up as 30s. What if all those are like highly rated on Metacritic and like they know something we don't? You know what I mean?
Well, it's also interesting in that C.H.U.D, from its reputation, so we both went into this not having seen C.H.U.D, not knowing.
What was the reputation for you?
My feeling was that it was basically a mystery science theater movie. And I couldn't figure out, or I couldn't tell you why it wasn't an actual mystery science theater movie, right? Like that it acts like one and moved like one or whatever, but didn't. I knew mystery science theater wasn't, for some reason it did. Maybe it was too depressing. Maybe it was didn't date well and controversial things happening. I had no idea. I don't know what kept it apart from like the Ed Wood category of
because that's because you asked before we started the movie, like, do I think it's going to be like so like production so terrible that it's great,
right?
And I thought it was going to go that route. Like, I thought this was just going to be a goddamn nightmare. You know what I mean? Like, you know, just like a shitty
Well,
80s
because the thing is, it is low rated, way lower down the scale on Rotten Tomatoes. So we're like, oh, we jumped the gun and hit one of these early. By reputation, you would think, right? My hope was that it was going to be something that was really fun and really distinctive, right? So, like, there are movies that are just, they're a distinctive thing. Like, Tom Hanks's, I think, first movie ever, Mazes and Monsters, was like this weirdo Dungeons and Dragons cautionary tale movie. And it's pretty terribly done and pretty terribly made, and I'm sure it didn't date well at all. But there's nothing else like it. Right? So I was hoping the best I could hope for is there's nothing else like it. But this is way better.
This is a good movie.
This is way better than just that. Surprise. Spoiler for us. This is a fantastic movie.
I think this might be because even out of like all of the last time we did How Low Can We Go?
Yep.
This might be the biggest like uppercut. It's like this is like a really good episode of BattleBots. Like when all the fights are knockouts. You know what I mean? Like those rare episodes where the fights are so good.
Right.
Like that feeling you get is what I just got from C.H.U.D.
Right. Yeah. So in the amazing thing to me was we kept looking at each other, and because not only is C.H.U.D a really good movie overall, I mean, there's obviously issues and whatever, but it's way better than the reputation led us to believe. But there are different kinds of movies inside C.H.U.D that don't belong there and are kind of awesome too, right? Like, why are they there? Literally, we just finished watching it, and I had turned to Nick at the end, and I was like, spoiler, the last shot of this movie is the last shot of Dunkirk. And it's equally... Wait, no, listen, I'm trying to make this argument. It's as aesthetically good, as aesthetically pleasing as the last shot of Dunkirk. It's obviously not as profound necessarily, but obviously.
Yeah, you're right, because Dunkirk was missing Daniel Stern.
Right, Dunkirk. But it's just a gorgeously framed and done shot. And there's different levels of the fire and the shadows, and I feel like I'm like, why? I'm watching C.H.U.D, right? Like, why is this happening? Yeah. Why is this so fun to look at, or so interesting, or why are weirdo things happening that I didn't expect? Like, all of a sudden, when they would shoot a movie, it was like we were jumping from. It was like an episode of Mad About You, and then it was an episode of NYPD Blue. I'm like, what are all these things doing in this movie? Because I expected a really simple, like, Troll 2 kind of experience.
I remember when Us came out, everyone talked about how, like, there's a C.H.U.D VHS, like, on someone's shelf, and he talked about how it was, like, a big influence.
Well, and it's the thing in Us. Like, it's the first Easter egg. It's Pride of Place. Like, it's the first shout-out.
Well, but I always wondered, I was like, because he's a great director, I was like, I wonder, like, what it is about this, like, shitty 80s, like, horror movie.
Right.
Like, what did he get from it? Like, because he just, like, he like, won an Oscar and shit. And,
right.
He's telling me, like, C.H.U.D.
And there's always a couple possibilities here. One is that it's a nostalgia thing, and that it could just be any movie. It just happened to be one that hit him, in the right mood. Right place. The other is that there's something in it that speaks to him, right? So, like,
there's we a don't lot know, in it.
Right? But it turns out this is pretty fantastic, right? So, we're going to deal with the monsters in a bit, right?
Yeah.
But 10 years ago, I could have gotten like a really good medium-sized, like Little Miss Sunshine sized project funded on the cast of this movie. If I told you here's what I have for our project. I got John Hurt and John Goodman, all the people who are in this movie, Daniel Stern. It's such a weirdly loaded cast for a very cheap, cult film. That right off the bat, that was kind of amazing.
There's a lot of faces. There's a lot of faces, like where it's those actors where you don't know the name. Like the other actor, who I don't know this guy's name, but he has one of those faces that's so memorable. As soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, that's Clark Griswold's coworker in Christmas Vacation, because you just see that face and you're like, I know that guy.
This is a movie of character actors. Like there's a bunch of character actors,
and they're all really good. Like the acting in this movie, like except there's one scene,
notable exception
that is terrible dog shit,
which is so weird that there's only one.
Yeah,
right. Going into C.H.U.D, you're expecting a lot of these to be able to talk about.
I kind of expected the first scene to have shitty dialogue because it's the dad from Home Alone.
Yep.
Right. That's how I remember him.
Yep.
He's like a kind of a cocky, edgy photographer with a model wife, and when you or model girlfriend, and
I mean this movie opens like Candyman.
Like, yeah, but like
the remake,
but like
Candyman.
But like with the name C.H.U.D,
right?
And it's sort of what I thought of it.
Sure.
Was the shitty horror movie reputation. I expected really bad, like The Room level dialogue.
Right.
And it never was, except for that one scene. Like all the dialogue was like really good. The characters' chemistry was really good.
Yep.
Like everyone felt like really believable in this like low budget, like kind of awful movie.
Right. Right, for sure. And the atmosphere of this movie is crazy. At one point, your internet went down while we were watching it, and we were like,
"It went, yeah, right when they were doing the
Geiger counter and stuff." And we were like, maybe the internet couldn't process the colors it was being asked to translate because it's true early '80s vision. The colors are really bizarre.
Yeah, like we were watching it on we were streaming it. It's right now. As we're recording this, it's on Prime for free.
Right.
So like, no reason not to watch it. Like this is
right.
This is great.
Right.
But like, it looked like we were watching it off like a VHS like tape. That's some of the parts. Like, it was just like so grainy,
amazing.
You know what I mean? But like, it kind of like, I don't know, it added to the movie a little.
What do you think of? Well, C.H.U.D, by the way, turns out to have a double meaning, almost cool. Like that's like a Hitchcock move. What's that doing here? I think that's my general review of this movie. Is it, on the surface, it's kind of what you expect a movie like C.H.U.D to be. But if you scratch a little or dig a little into it, you're like, wait, what's that doing here? Why is C.H.U.D like a double meaning? Why is there an elaborate X-Files conspiracy side plot that maybe is not even a side plot? Maybe it's the main plot.
C.H.U.D is like a $1 scratch off where you win $10. like I didn't pay a lot for it, but I'm getting a lot from it.
Right. But there are so many things that are either way better than they need to be for a movie like C.H.U.D or way more interesting than they need to be. It's also so
deceiving because like the first minute, like when spoiler, you find out the captain's wife getting like that whole scene and the credits are pretty bad. Like like it's really cheesy.
Right.
And so your first couple minutes of the movie is like, oh, it's already hitting the expectations. You had
we're here for Plan 9.
Yep. Yeah, you're here for this like really shitty movie, and then and then you scratch it off. You get your $10, and you're like, oh wait, I'm getting Dunkirk. I'm gonna get a little bit of 7.
Right, 7.5 for a minute. That was crazy. And then I'll give you. How about this? This C.H.U.D has never been compared to this movie in the history of reviews. I guarantee you. There's a moment where one of the first reveals of C.H.U.D, there's a shot over a manhole cover, and it's a beautiful down-hole shot of just the iron grating and the road, whatever. Totally Third Man. Like Orson Welles could have just like popped out of the corner, and it's C.H.U.D, right?
We're getting Orson Welles.
Right, exactly.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of what other movies. There was a few things where we kind of looked at each other and we were like, wait a minute. There was even like some Hitchcock like camera moves, like from the apartment, and the camera goes down and goes to the street, then it cuts to the street.
Yeah, loops through the window and then POV down like you threw yourself out the window, then smooths out and down the alley. It's like
this movie is a lot of
happening?
Like bait and switching, because like it also, one of the things we were talking about when we were watching was how the movie goes from like really dirty, like one, the underground is always like kind of filthy, but even the police department, like it looked like it had grime on the walls, like people are in there 24/7, like it looked dirty. But then you cut to like the fashion shoot, and things just look a lot cleaner.
Right.
And it's just constantly like changing like the whole visual.
Right,
for you.
But there's like a dichotomy, which you don't expect to use the word dichotomy talking about. But C.H.U.D. All right, enough of. Let's just take for C.H.U.D for what it is, because now we've established that C.H.U.D's surprising and it's better than it should be for C.H.U.D. But there's also some, like, the music was really stand out at moments. Sometimes it was subtle, which is weird. I didn't expect that, but there were just a few sounds, low notes. It was kind of timed perfectly. The monsters were better than I expected them.
They started bad.
They started terrible,
but then they got better. It's constantly changing, man. The whole everything about the movie.
Right. Well, that's the thing is there. So for some reason, whether maybe it's just luck, maybe it was incompetence of how they were shooting it, and it was just fuzzy or the wrong angle or whatever.
There was a shot where the dude was totally out of focus. I am almost 100% certain.
Oh, for sure, right. And I think some of that's happened, but I gotta say, some of it looked like the way like David Lynch would shoot it, right?
Yeah.
And either that's accidental or on purpose. I don't know, but it's kind of the same effect that Carnival Souls would give you, right? If you shoot something, even if the monster looks bad or the scenario behind it isn't that appealing, it's just garbage or sewer or wherever we are for all this. If you have the camera tilted at the right angle and you get the right shine and you get the right vibe, like it can be kind of attractive, right? Movies do that all the time. This movie somehow does that, which also unexpected.
I will say my favorite thing, and I think one of the people on the Hollow Weekly page commented that Daniel Stern and I keep calling him
John
Dad.
Hurd.
Yeah, the dad from Home Alone and Daniel Stern, who was Harry or Marv. Harry, definitely Harry.
I don't never remember.
From Home Alone in this movie, it's just weird to see because like I grew up with Home Alone, and I've never I've seen like maybe a movie with Daniel Stern,
Sure,
and definitely not with the other guy. And it was just really weird to like see them like buddy going up against these like experiment people in the underground.
Right, and and they at the end when they kind of get together, it's almost like the movie knew beforehand because they're the last pairing.
Yeah,
it's like they saved those two for the. And Daniel Stern was actually pretty credible at this role, which was an X-Files type of role, like that the investigative. I love the there's back then there was power to this. Right now it's ludicrous, but every time anyone was about to get in trouble, they'd be like, "I'll go to the papers. don't mess with me, or I'll go to the papers. I'm going to go to the newspapers and tell them my story." Like, and then the people who are in the conspiracy, like the Illuminati of the situation, the police or the captain or the FBI or whatever, they'd be like, wait, let's talk about this over here. And he'd be like, oh, okay. And then he'd follow him. Like, he's going to shoot you in the head in the alley. Like, you're the only person who knows the secret. You're the only person who has the evidence on your person. And the guy you're trying to stop is like, let's go talk
about it. Like a pistol in his pocket. He's like, you stupid idiot.
Let's go talk about it back here. But they just do it, right? Because it wasn't like that then. Now, because then the papers, I'll go to the papers threat was so terrifying to the bad guys that they were like immediately went to negotiate mode. Like, no, go to the papers. All right, I'll tell you what's going on. It's C.H.U.D's. Right? The government just like crumbled as soon as he was like, I'll go to the newspapers. It was kind of amazing anachronism that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, no, that was.
You're not like, I'll go to Gawker.
Okay, so I wrote one of the things that I wrote. I wrote in all caps, John Goodman.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh my God, we buried the lead. John Goodman.
Okay, so I know a lot of horror fans don't like remakes. Whatever. I think they can be great.
Sure.
So, not so very often. There's a horror remake that gives new life to a movie that maybe wasn't that great. So the first thing that comes to my mind is The Blob.
Mm-hmm.
The Blob was in the 50s and the 80s. They did a remake and it like gave it a whole new.
The Fly.
The Fly was another one.
Totally pumped new blood.
The Thing was another one.
Of course.
Being that this movie, I know we're using 57 as the
sure. Yep.
Metacritic thing, but I do want to ping back to the Rotten Tomatoes 32. Do you think in a world that you could do C.H.U.D and have it be that low? Because there's so many things in C.H.U.D that I think would make that would hit the spots that make like the Blob remake, the Thing. There's a lot of things in there. Like when we watched the Thing from Another Planet, whatever the fuck the original's called, when we went to go see it at that one theater with Garen. Yep. I could see where there was a lot of things where John Carpenter could take that and elevate it and make it a masterpiece. Do you think there's life in C.H.U.D?
I do. It's weird because it reminded me somehow of Spider Baby, right? So everything in Spider Baby is visually kind of a hot mess. Shouldn't be working at all. The performances shouldn't be working.
Is that the launching the last one you were talking about?
Yep. Okay. Yeah, it's a cult classic, right? Sid Haig as well. So like everything is, nothing should be working, but it all kind of magically works together.
Right.
And that's what C.H.U.D has, this bizarre, unstoppable charisma to it. Mm-hmm. That it wants to be its own thing. Yeah, I absolutely think there's life. You could do more serious spin-offs of C.H.U.D. You could do
That's what I'm saying.
Right? Like, of course. I mean, you could do all kinds of stuff. I bet you know how like there's a black and white version of The Mist?
Yeah.
A really polished like really polished epic black and white C.H.U.D would be probably interesting.
Like what I'm saying is, yeah, you could really polish this.
That's right.
Reviewed. What I would say is like reviewed as a turd, which I don't think it is, but like you could really, I think, really polish it up and have like. I even thought of like the remake of like Let the Right One In. I was like, why am I thinking of that? Why am I thinking of this movie, which is like a perfect movie while watching C.H.U.D?
Right. It's amazing. Now, obviously, we fell in love with it. Our expectations were blown away, which is part of the fun of the series. There are things in the movie. This isn't the Lawrence Arabia of horror. There are things that what was the. So I just want to focus for a second on the amazingly bad acting of that one scene, because that was just
when Bosch.
First of all, Bosch's whole character arc. Bosch is like the most like I don't know, straight man, everyman character, and then all of a sudden he has to go dark, and he's trying to do Hamlet or something.
Like Bosch's whole character emotion is he always misses the bus. Like whatever that feeling is Bosch's motivation for like
Totally.
for like 80% of the movie.
Totally. There's a famous quote. Someone take down a Jimmy Stewart, the legendary actor. I think it might be Lauren Bacall with someone who's like, Jimmy Stewart's only got one expression on his face when he's acting. It's, where's my other shoe? Right?
That's good.
This guy just looks so clueless the whole movie. But then all of a sudden he goes really dark, and he's trying to like do King Lear. He's like, oh, but I've been smited by the Lord. I'm like, why is this guy?
It's like he did like the high school version of it.
It was crazy, right? But that scene, I mean, they really zoom in on him.
It's supposed to be emotional, so they find his. It turns out the woman who dies in the beginning of the movie is his wife.
Yes,
they find her body. And all the cops show up and he sees her face, and it's kind of like a cheesy dead body.
Yes,
and then it cuts to him in the bar, and he's supposed to like it's supposed to be him like completely shattered.
Yeah, totally.
And
you've seen this scene a million times. It's the person who's lost the one meaningful one. It's John Wick and his dog.
Yeah.
Right? He's lost his wife, and right. So that's the dynamic here. But this guy is not the actor for this.
Man, I mean, it's like...
But the camera pushes in. His friends are like, so do you want us to take you home or whatever? He's like, let me tell you.
Well, no, they get annoyed. They'll, like, he says something like, oh, come on. And it's like, dude, he just found his wife floating in a...
Oh, that's right. They want him back to normal.
Yeah, they're like, oh, come on. Come on. Come on, it's just your wife.
It is New York in the early 80s, but okay. And then he gets really emotional.
No, yeah, that... I mean,
and it was pretty
tragic.
Tries.
I mean, seriously,
just go see that scene. We can't do justice to how hilarious that scene
is. It's sort of... It felt... What's funny is so we were saying, like, this has, like, Dunkirk in it. It has North by Northwest. It has, yep. This, that, and the other. Totally. That scene is a little Steve Brule. Like that scene, like this movie just has. Like, they cover everything from Criterion, Turner Classic Movies to Adult Swim. Like there's just a little bit of everything.
And I'm so glad you said the Criterion thing, because that reminds me. Because I had read, I think it was Den of Geek. It was a website who was talking about C.H.U.D, and they said that Criterion tweeted on April Fool's Day that they were releasing a deluxe HD Blu-ray edition of C.H.U.D. And it was interesting that it's C.H.U.D that they picked as the representative of the thing they would think we would be most shocked that Criterion would touch, right? And you can think of so many other movies that are so much worse than C.H.U.D. So why is C.H.U.D the one you pick for that? And his theory was the name, right? That the name just lends itself to be making fun of. And the creatures can be ridiculous looking, in some of the reveals of them or whatnot. So between that combination, that was working against the movie. But his thesis was that there's a much better movie hiding in there, kind of like what we were saying. But it's weird to me that C.H.U.D gets this reputation of that's the one. You would think of all people, Criterion, who are supposed to be able to dig out the nuanced stuff, would know that C.H.U.D's not the movie they should be doing that.
Just be honest. Like, they kind of have to do it. At some point.
Right?
Like with Jordan Peele even talking about like.
Well, true. Now you're right. Oh, that's a.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like they got like that Academy
Award. There's a legitimacy.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I bet.
So let's do it like this, right? I think, to my shock and amazement, I think this movie is not that much worse than Tremors. I would have expected Tremors to be at least doubly good as C.H.U.D going into it, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't think C.H.U.D is that far off, right? For some reason, there's a look to this movie, a feel, that vibe. I had the same reaction when we did Hell Night for our.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention.
Our series is that it was the same unexpected kind of fun, much better than I expected for weird reasons, right? So this C.H.U.D is doing this for like. Criterion has multiple reasons. That's the thing they look for. Go pick up C.H.U.D.
Okay, so before we started recording, we were talking of comparing this to Hell Night, because Hell Night was like one of the first like 3 or 4 that we did. So like this is in the same
position.
Yeah, it's in the same position. In
the journey.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And I don't know, dude. I think through talking, I know you were sort of on the fence. You didn't know if you were going to do...
Oh, you're doing this now. We're already doing this? All right, because this is... You're already doing the best ever. How low can we go? Movie like the highest. Okay.
I mean,
because you're saying Hell Night up to now. Hell Night, because I don't think Hell Night was, for me. It was Exorcist 3. It's just
no. Exorcist 3 is. I'm saying. I guess this would be like
in the different tier.
This would be like the second tier.
Okay.
Of a movie. Yeah, okay. not overall. Exorcist 3 by far.
So you just mean the fun we had doing it, or the surprise that came?
Yeah, like the level of does this.
So the level of surprise differential, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I expected C.H.U.D to feel like a movie that belonged at like roughly a 25% rating. Right?
That's where I thought.
And I felt like it was going to be that, but hopefully with some flair and some fun and some weirdo, like whatever. And it's more than doubly good than that, right? So that it's the differential is I don't remember expecting. I expected more from Hell Night, actually. So I think C.H.U.D is the most surprising.
I think C.H.U.D is the most surprising too, because the thing that I liked in Hell Night was it was pretty funny.
Yep.
But I think Daniel Stern like more than makes up for that, like alone in C.H.U.D. Like just one scene with Daniel Stern will cover like all of Hell Night accomplished. And I forget who it was. Like back when Alex was like still doing like writing classes and stuff like that, and like getting like books by authors. I think it was Aaron Sorkin or Stephen King, or I don't remember who, but it was one of those things. And they said every scene, somebody should try to win something.
Yeah,
like it should be like a battle. Or something. It sounds like an Aaron Sorkin thing.
Totally.
But this happens a lot. Every scene in C.H.U.D is enthralling. I care about what the people are saying. I care about the people themselves. But if you kind of view it through like each scene, someone's trying to win something because they are.
Right.
Whether it's like
it did a really good job of that. It was almost like watching a play where they bring in, now you're with 3 characters and then there's a scene change and now you're 3 characters, but it's never hard to follow because it's just small chunks of people trying to do one thing.
Yeah, and even the way like they layered like the A, B, and C story throughout the whole thing, like they just interweaved it so well. And I can't believe I'm saying this for C.H.U.D, dude. Like this is blowing my mind.
Well, that's the whole point of the series is to find stuff with that. I mean, I would not have watched this movie without the series.
I would not.
I don't like movies like I have a fondness for The Gate, but I'm not the Gate fan, and I just expected this to be a worse version of The Gate, but it's not that at all. I would still fight for Hell Night though right now, in my experience, just because Hell Night in the middle of weird, like all the silliness and whatever that was happening in Hell Night. There was like a dark poetry, like weird thing going on there that you just don't get anywhere else. It was like all of a sudden Hitchcock's Rebecca showed up in an 80s slasher and nothing else ever did that. Like I've never seen that before.
That's a good point.
Right. So, but this one also is so surprising that I guess the only thing right now that would be holding it back for me is that I felt like Hell Night has the ability. There's a little sting in its tail still. It's still a legitimately scary movie in a couple of parts in its own way.
Oh yeah, there wasn't really much.
C.H.U.D has got nothing. It packs no fright punch left. I was more scared of Daniel Stern putting his hand over actors' mouths to get him to shut up. He was like dragging himself through the sewer, and it looked real. Right? And then people were screaming. He's like, "No, the Chuds will hear it." And he'd put his hand over their mouth, and I'd be like, "That's worse than the Chud." Oh my god! Look at his hand.
I'd rather be eaten alive than have Daniel Stern's sewer hand on my lips.
So, horrifying. The scariest thing in C.H.U.D isn't the
I would have threw up in his hands. Sorry, dude.
It's not the C.H.U.D, but C.H.U.D highly recommended for if you're open to being surprised about anything else you want to hit about C.H.U.D. Monster design,
dude. I mean, seriously, knowing
the
that
mystery of the fact that the director didn't do anything else. Like what else?
The only thing I gotta say is, it's on Amazon Prime, and I know most of you probably have Prime. And if you haven't seen it, like, just stop listening and go watch it now.
Wow, you're
like,
a C.H.U.D evangelist now, yeah.
I think I might be. Oh, yes. Where would you? Because that's the thing. How look we go? Where would you rate? Because I know exactly where I would rate this.
Go ahead.
To me, this is a 80%.
80%.
Easy take.
Easy take. The thing is, the entire time I was watching it, as I was realizing that it was better than I expected here and better than I expected there and more interesting than I expected here, it started I knew the rating was rising in my head. By the time we were getting to the end of it, I was like, this is going to be like mid to maybe 77%, I would say. I'm saying 83. And
nice.
Not just talking about it, but also realizing the fact that a lot of the things that you just automatically are assuming that are couldn't be good really are.
It's
right. I mean, you're just assuming that couldn't be good in show. Like there couldn't be a relationship, a legitimate relationship between two characters that are just trying to move a plot point forward. But all of a sudden, Daniel Stern's having interesting bonding moments, like with the villain's representative in the tunnel, or whatever. You're like, they say something interesting, and you're like, yeah, 83.
Oh, I forgot about that scene with Daniel Stern and the captain.
Right, and the gore, by the way, is legitimate where they choose to use it. It's not the most action-filled movie, by the way. That kind of surprised me too. I thought for a cult movie, I expected more mayhem. There's really not that much. There's more action, I would say, in like A Night of the Comet than this.
Yeah,
right.
Mm-hmm. The only, I guess, the last thing I wanted to bring up was one. It's kind of crazy. We were talking about how wild the NFL and NBA seasons have been so far. Mm-hmm. Same goes for How Low Can We Go? We're in the same because this time around we wanted to add Metacritic, and the fact that we got this, what did I say, it was 32 or something like that.
Yeah.
The fact that we got to like do this movie that normally would have been a 32 mark up hot so high, right. And like it was even higher than that.
Right. Well, we did steal a little gold nugget from our future selves on the Rotten Tomatoes side of things. Right. I don't know what else is sitting at 32, but C.H.U.D might have been the best thing.
C.H.U.D might be the best.
This might bite us.
But what I think is going to be interesting is when we do pull from either Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic,
or somewhere else,
right. Just seeing like what the difference in terms of review quality is.
Well, and remember, this is not a science thing. It's what a casual, because as you point out, a lot of times there's a big difference between a movie that's got 90 reviews and a movie that's got 6. Right?
Well, yeah.
The stats are not reliable, needless to say. But generally speaking, all movie fans do is go check that, like we do, cursory glance, take in the number, and move on. I mean, it has a power in the world because we are all too lazy to actually investigate behind the scenes of how many reviews it really has and how legitimate is that. If you're using this kind of thing as a bookmark, everyone's gonna make the same mistake, right? There's gonna be thousands and thousands and thousands of people who overlook C.H.U.D on Rotten Tomatoes because they're gonna be like,
we're both one of them.
Well, I didn't use Rotten Tomatoes for that, but like I used The Gate honestly for that. I was like, do I want to watch The Gate again but worse? No. Right? That's why I never watched C.H.U.D. It just turned out to be not that at all.
Well, now we're going to 56.
Now we're going to 56.
I don't know what to expect.
We got to top C.H.U.D. This also, this is. I remember you because you like progress. I remember this from our doing the series the last time. So when a movie is really, really good, you get really deflated if the next one isn't really, really good. And if the next one's like, okay, it was better than whatever, like you're like, oh, yeah, here we go.
I mean, this series is a real emotional roller coaster for me.
So I hope the one we pick next, probably with the
we didn't pick. We let.
By the way, we should mention, thank you to the group. The Facebook group for Hello Weekly picked we gave them all the options. It was really interesting what was getting voted on and how it went. I thought we were going to do that
Argento movie. I really thought we were.
Well, the weird thing is our group seems to have a weird affinity as horror fans go, because you would expect something popular or franchisey to just win, right? So if Phantasm would be an example, right? You just expect Phantasm win, or Child's Play would just win, even if there were other movies that were. Sometimes the Godzilla comes in and just stomps everybody. If Saw is a choice, the horror fans pick Saw, and we just move on, right? So there was no like movie killer in there. There was no one that was going to take everyone's vote,
right?
But it was weird to me that it was starting I thought Twilight Zone the movie was going to win.
Oh, that's right. That was a
by a mile. I thought that movie was going to like just take it, and then all of a sudden Phenomena comes up. So our group obviously likes Argento, and our proportion of horror fans, and then unbelievably, C.H.U.D goes shooting up to the top, which we had talked about C.H.U.D as a possibility before, but if the group had voted another way, we would have done another thing. But C.H.U.D literally comes up at the end out of nowhere and wins. So thank you to the group.
That was awesome. The only one I was sort of pulling for was Hatchet 3 because I've never seen any of the other Hatchets, so I thought it'd be really fun to just like jump to the third film of a franchise just to try to figure what the hell's happening.
I was actually interested, and we'll probably end up doing that in series. We'll probably have to because who knows what we'll be choosing from when we get to the 20s.
Yeah.
But, if like I still always will ever know what you did last summer is the only option that we're going to be watching. Like so, but it would be fascinating to jump into the middle of a series you know nothing about, right? Because there's some series I haven't seen. Most horror series I have, but there's some series I haven't seen. But even if I haven't seen them,
you sort of get the idea.
You've absorbed like kind of.
But I know nothing. Like somehow this has just been in my blind spot.
Hatchet is just the blind spot, and it'll be fun to jump into a blind spot and try to figure out where you are. Right?
Yeah, and not because I know Victor Crowley is like their prequel.
Yep.
Not even jump there. Like I want to be like. Just smack dab in the middle and just like in the land of confusion and just trying to figure out what the fuck is happening.
That would be fun. Well, I'm sure we'll end up doing something like that as we go.
That would be fun. So if you're not in the group, go check that out because then you can vote on what we do or what we watch next. And if C.H.U.D's any...
We need more guidance because you guys, look what the treasure they gave us here.
I know, this was pretty good. I'm actually like... Wow,
this is not what it was.
A big W from the group.
We wouldn't have picked it, right? So big W for the group. Keep it up. So and join the group, add to their good taste, and help us select the next one.
And if you want
to, just so you can get the muscle memory ready. We're still okay. We're in the high 50s, but we're gonna really need. We're gonna need some wind at our back. We need good advice.
We need you in numbers. Like we just need like the high.
Let's do this together, people.
We just come together, and if you want
save us from what was the dreaded one last series, Dracula 2 or whatever.
We never made it to Dracula 2.
Save us from having to watch Dracula 2 or making a mistake.
Or make us watch Dracula 2. What if that's like...
Oh, yeah, well, you're right. Bodie McBoatface.
If we watch Dracula 2 and like we're moved, like we laugh, we cry.
Oh my God, it'll be the C.H.U.D of Dracula sequels. Right.
Well... Never mind. I was going to bring up the Taste of Blood of Dracula, which is what we did a couple episodes ago. Right. If you haven't listened to that one, check that one out.
Yes.
That one's great. Okay, we'll just end it there. Watch C.H.U.D. It's really freaking good. Until next time, stay scary. Watch a bunch of horror movies. Later. Bye.
Bye.